Thank you so much, Evan. And the accolades of those two trainers is absolutely insane. It is no joke. You were looking at Collin Hire, who was the 3rd place in the world last year. That's what I'm saying. This top 38 is the best competitors in the nation and almost in the entire world. It's crazy.
And last year, Collin got to 3rd place in the world. He's back. He already has his invite to Worlds wrapped up. He's trying to get to day 2 right now and become the national championship here. Of course, Manoj, they're both from the same region. They both go to the same regionals. They both play each other at the same tournaments all the time. And like you heard from Manoj, Collin always beats Manoj. And right now, Manoj definitely wants the one time for him to be able to beat Collin is right here, right now, at day 2 of nationals.
No, it's so important right now to get those wins. It looks like both players have loaded up their games, so I think we're going to take a look at their teams here. And we have Manoj's team right there. You can see the Terrakion, Amoonguss, Bisharp, Thunderous, Landorus, and Kangaskhan. But Collin, he also decided to bring a team with him. You just can't see it on screen. It's Salamence, Cresselia, Wash Rotom, Heatran, Tyranitar, and a newcomer here, Escavalier.
Yeah, and Escavalier is one of those Pokemon that you don't see too often at all. And Collin, he does enjoy running Trick Room teams. He's actually very well known for running Trick Room teams. And he always has this one Pokemon that is in the back of this Trick Room team to do a lot of damage, and that's what Escavalier does. And Escavalier has some pretty cool tools to it, Its bug typing hits a lot of things super effectively. If there's a Cresselia on the other side of the field or any sort of psychic type, that can hit it really, really powerfully. This with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire with the fairy types, Iron Head is also going to be doing a lot of damage to fairies. So it also has access to Overcoat, which is going to prevent spores. That's going to be huge, With that Amoonguss on Manoj's side, he has to be careful about where he spores because Escavalier essentially is immune to those powder type attacks.
Exactly, and we see Rotom Heatran lead here for Collin Hire, and for Manoj Sunny, we get the Bisharp and Terrakion.
Yeah, and right there, that Bisharp coming in, trying to see if that Salamence would come in first to pick up some Defiant boost, but Collin not leading with that Salamence right now. Instead, going to go with Heatran and Wash Rotom. Wash Rotom right now could do a lot of work right now, could burn that Bisharp, could also go for a very powerful Hydro Pump on that Terrakion side, so let's see what happens.
We do see the switch actually first there from Collin, bringing that Cresselia in, and a close combat from Terrakion. Cresselia should be able to eat that up just fine. Nice choice, great switch there. And of course, Terrakion's defense will fall as well as its special defense. We get the knockoff from Bisharp into the Rotom, doing a ton of damage, taking it down to 27 health. But a Will-O-Wisp hitting back. Bisharp avoids the attack. Oh my gosh, and really love the play by both competitors there, but just an unfortunate roll of the dice for Collin.
Yeah, and that's not too often that you see Cresselia switch into a Bisharp, because Bisharp is going to be able to strike back at it with a very powerful knockoff. We do see a lot of damage dealt to that Wash Rotom slot. Unfortunately, that Will-O-Wisp did miss. Terrakion going for that close combat onto the Cresselia, so Collin did do a very good switch right there to predict where that close combat was going to come into. What else was supposed to do in that situation? Heatran was heavily threatened by that Terrakion anyways.
And now Terrakion, showing its speed over these Pokemon, goes with the Rock Slide, feints the Rotom, and does a decent amount of damage to Cresselia, who's very, very defensive. And a huge knockoff from Bisharp does a ton of damage, down to 0. It's going to go back to Collin, losing 2 Pokemon early in this match.
Yeah, and Manoj right now in very good position, has not taken any damage at all in this game. So we see Heatran going to come in right now, not going to enjoy Face Confidence that Terrakion at all. And depends on what Collin has here as his 4th. We do see the Escavalier come out, but no Trick Room's up, and that's going to be super unfortunate for Collin. Cresselia probably would have really enjoyed to get up a Trick Room right there, just so that Heatran and this Escavalier could operate under that Trick Room for at least 4 more turns of offensive power.
It looks like Collin deciding to go with the Protect here, realizing that he is vulnerable to a close combat. He, of course, protects himself. Bisharp going with the knockoff onto the Escavalier and does a ton of damage, taking it down to 33 health. And knocking off a Life Orb, I believe. And I think we see an Iron Head into the Terrakion slide. It hangs on with a Focus Sash, so a double item reveal there. That's why knockoff is such a great move. Not only does it do a lot of damage, especially on Bisharp, you get to see the item.
Yeah, and that's definitely one good advantage of using knockoff in these best-of-3 sets. Even if you knock off for a little bit of damage, you still get to see what that Pokemon is running as their held item.
And we get a close combat into the Heatran, picks up the feint in one shot. A critical hit, of course. Oh my gosh, Terrakion just going ham. And the Heatran does faint. It's going back to Collin here, getting those debuffs to its stats there, and a knockoff finishing Escavalier there. So a huge match for Manoj. That's incredible, who I believe before that said he always loses to Collin.
Yeah, and he took that in pretty dominating fashion right now because, you know, only one attack was really able to come off on Collin's side, that Iron Head and that Terrakion, as Manoj wins it 4-0. So Collin right now, one of his big priorities, you know, maybe bring that Salamence to slow down the Terrakion and also slow down that, you know, all those other physical attacks. But he does have to be careful with that Bisharp, right? Another thing that Collin really needs to do is be able to set up that Trick Room. That's going to be so huge, especially with that Terrakion that's so fast. That's going to be outspeeding a lot of, you know, Collin's team. You know, Collin's team is built for Trick Room right now. It looks like it. So has to prioritize getting up that Trick Room.
Yes, I totally agree with you there, Dweez. This is going to be a big match. Collin can battle back. That's what's so great about the format, right? It's 2 out of 3. So we see these great players really learning from their mistakes and stepping up their game. So we could see Collin take 2 in a row here, but Manoj does appear to be in quite a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, Collin is 3rd in the world. He's played so many best-of-3 sets so far. He has so much experience, and I'm sure I'm sure he's been in the situation before where he is down the first game and he's been able to come back. I mean, yesterday he started 1-2. He started 1-2 and came back to win 6 straight to qualify for day 2 of Nationals. So Collin is a very tough player, but Manoj right now is definitely going to, you know, try to finish this off as soon as possible. Does not want to let Collin pick up any momentum at all, and you know, Manoj is probably going to go ahead and bring all his Trick Room counters. You know, Bisharp's going to be a big one. We saw how much damage that did to that Cresselia last game. I mean, that knockoff is so powerful, and you know, if the knockoff won't pick up a knockout, then a Rock Slide from Terrakion could possibly pick up a flinch. Kangaskhan can also do a lot of damage, and you know, Amoonguss, you know, that's a risky play to bring Amoonguss because, you know, if you've seen the Escavalier, you know that Escavalier has that overcoat ability, and you know, it's going to prevent it from being able to do anything really to that Escavalier.
Exactly, Dewey. And it looks like both of our trainers have walked in their Pokemon. This is going to be a very, very important lead here, guys. Salamence and Cresselia there for Collin. And from Manoj, we're going to get that Bisharp Kangaskhan. So he goes into the Intimidate there, going to get that Defiant boost. This is actually really big for Sunny there.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, you have to be careful about where you lead that Salamence because that Intimidate is going to boost Bisharp's attack stage by ultimately 1. You know, the Intimidate drops it 1 stage, but then the Defiant boost boosts it by 2 stages for a net of 1. Bisharp right now is going to be hitting really hard, going to be able to hit that Cresselia with a knockoff, might even pick up a knockout in 1 shot. So Collin right now has to be a bit careful about what he's going to do. Kangaskhan does have fake out support from Manoj's side, you know, could possibly fake out 1 slot and try to pick up a knockout with Bisharp on the other.
It looks like we're going to go ahead and get the switch here from Collin into the Tyranitar, going to, of course, get the sand up there. But a very, very difficult lead, obviously, unfortunately, for him. Salamence going Mega now. Oh, Collin showing off his Mega Bracelet there. Calling for it, and let's see what we get here. Kangaskhan also going Mega as well. And I do love the tweet here we got from Garchamp says Manoj means business. Hashtag play Pokemon. So guys, get in the conversation. A Protect, of course, there on the Salamence, and Kangaskhan faking out Salamence not having it because of that Protect. Knockoff from Bisharp into the Tyranitar slot there. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but gets rid of the Assault Vest. And the Sandstorm, of course, will just do a little bit of chip damage to some of these Pokemon.
Yeah, and Collin's still in not the best position because, I mean, that knockoff did a lot of damage to that Tyranitar, more than Collin really would have liked to see. I mean, you know, 1 stage of increased attack Bisharp is doing that much damage to a Tyranitar with a resisted move. I mean, that's just a lot of damage for Collin's side to be able to handle. Salamence does get the speed boost right now, and one thing that Collin does know is that Bisharp does not carry a Focus Sash. Would not be surprised to see if it's Choice Banded right now. I mean, that's probably why it's doing a lot of damage to all the Pokemon on Collin's side. You know, he just needs 1 good hit on the Bisharp, and that should be able to pick up the knockout right there. And that's going to be huge for him to be able to get back there, get back to Cresselia inside, and go for a Trick Room if he really needs that.
Great analysis there, Dwee. And we do see the switch into Landorus from Manoj, going to get an Intimidate here, like we mentioned earlier. They're everywhere. Right. There's so much Intimidate right now in the game. Salamence going with Frustration here into the Kangaskhan, doing about 50% damage, but a low kick going back into that Tyranitar slot, definitely going to pick up the feint there, and it will go back to Collin.
So we do see that Tyranitar does get knocked out. We see Landorus come in instead of that Bisharp now. Bisharp might be a bit more manageable because Collin has no other way to boost its Defiant or activate its Defiant ability. So right now, good position for Cresselia to come in and set up a Trick Room, and maybe that might be what needs to happen in order for whatever Pokemon Collin has in back to have the proper tools to operate and pick up some knockouts. The Salamence is a bit slower, most likely built for the Trick Room mode.
Yes.
So this Landorus Therian out on Manoj's side right now can go for a Rock Slide, possibly pick up some flinches on that Cresselia and the Salamence.
Collin deciding not to protect on this turn does end up taking the Rock Slide damage here, but the Salamence taking it like a champ. Earthquake from Salamence, of course, won't affect his own Cresselia there because of the Levitate or the Landorus, but will pick up some damage on this Kangaskhan, but not too much from that Landorus's Intimidate there earlier.
Yeah, and we see Kangaskhan go for that double edge in that Cresselia slot. Gonna do a good amount of damage back to that Cresselia, bringing it all the way down to 50%. A lot of recoil back to that Kangaskhan.
Yeah, but that recoil, yeah. And the Trick Room does end up going up, so this could play into Collin's favor here. Well,
yeah.
It definitely should.
Yeah, and one thing to note, you see that Earthquake, Collin was just really worried about that Bisharp coming back in. It's safer to just go for that Earthquake instead of Frustration, just in case that Bisharp did decide to come in. Right now, Kangaskhan is going to be a bit scary with the Sucker Punch, but at the same time, I believe it still has one stage of reduced attack, right?
I do believe so from the early Intimidate.
Yeah, so right now, Cresselia and Salamence are going to be able to move before Landorus and Kangaskhan, so, Kangaskhan might want to just go for Sucker Punch, try to pick up some damage before it gets knocked out.
What are we going to see here? It's a helping hand. Kangaskhan going Sucker Punch. It fails, most likely on the Cresselia. Frustration now, targeting the Landorus slot, doing a lot of damage, takes it into the red, but not quite enough to finish it off. A Rock Slide going back onto the Salamence as well as the Cresselia, taking it down to 19 hit points, barely hanging on there. It's going to be close with this Sandstorm. I'm not sure if it's going to make it. It's going to be right there at the 9 hit points.
Yeah, so all the Pokemon on the field right now are really weakened, and Kangaskhan was playing a bit safe. Cresselias usually do carry Ice-type attacks. It can go for an Ice-type attack on the Landorus, but Kangaskhan wanted to ensure that Cresselia could not attack if it really wanted to that turn.
And of course we get this Sucker Punch into the Cresselia slot. Collin trying to pick up some physical damage with his Pokemon Cresselia there. Salamence going Frustration again into the Landorus, which should get rid of it, but now Kangaskhan's still on the field, but I think this Sandstorm should go ahead and subside. It was just enough turns.
Yeah, and that's why you had to count your Sandstorm turns right there. I'm not sure if Collin just did not count or just expected the Sandstorm to continue on, but Kangaskhan surviving is going to be huge because now it has one more turn where it can go for a Sucker Punch and do a little bit more damage before it can get knocked out. Salamence right now on the edge of its seat, could faint at any moment right now. Kangaskhan's Sucker Punch will easily be able to knock it out with 9 hit points left.
Well, we do get the Terrakion and Escavalier there on the field for both of our trainers, so not quite over yet, although Salamence is at very, very low hit points here.
Yeah, and we still have that Bisharp in the back for Manoj, so Manoj with a 3-2 advantage, most likely going to be a 2-1 advantage after this turn. Kangaskhan most likely going to get knocked out from Escavalier, or even Salamence might get knocked out right now too, so it's really up in the air.
Terrakion ended up protecting there for Manoj there. A Sucker Punch from Kangaskhan into the Salamence slot, definitely going to finish it off, and Collin will lose the Mega. And let's see what we get from Escavalier. It's going to be an Iron Head, but the Terrakion, of course, has protected, and it is looking grim right now for Collin.
Yeah, and we've seen the Focus Sash on Terrakion right now. One big thing that can happen is maybe Collin can pick up a Terrakion flinch. Kangaskhan right now not going to be able to do too much damage to that Escavalier. A Sucker Punch would probably be its best option. We've seen a normal type attack would just be resisted by that Escavalier, so not sure exactly what Collin wants to do. An Iron Head in that Terrakion could possibly swing it with a flinch, but it's still up in the air, and yeah, Collin just forfeits that match.
He does, and Manoj Sunny, that's insane. He ends up taking it from the last year's 3rd place in the world trainer.
Yeah, and Collin just recently won a regional too. He won the spring regionals, so Collin is still on point.